A warm good evening to all the participants, audience, and most importantly, the people who are viewing all of us through the live stream via Tibet Online TV. Welcome to the closing ceremony. We have had two extremely intense days of discussion on China's high-tech repression and the freedom of religion. To this closing ceremony, may I please invite our special guest, Honorable Member of the National Parliament, Council of State, Switzerland, Mr. Robert Karmar.
Okay, d'accord.
President of the Central Tibetan Administration, Honorable Sikyong, Dr. Lobsang Sangay. And Secretary of the Department of Information and International Relations, Karma Chwila. The discussion of technology, the drones, the space, and the DNA collection, all these have really gobbled my mind. But definitely what stood out is that China has not stopped its repressive policies, be it in 1959, be it in 1980s, be it in 1990s, and now with its technological might in 2019. It is an ongoing process, and it is not just targeted towards some of its people, but, and more importantly, against the vulnerable people, which it calls its ethnic minorities. To be very specific, the Tibetans, the Uyghurs, the Mongolians, and people of faith, be it any religion. In these 2 days, we have had discussions, presentations, images from all the experts, which drew the same conclusion that it is high time that the international community wakes up, that the international community presses on this authoritarian regime. To make a very important impact, we just passed the declaration of 2019 Geneva Forum. And I would like to now request our special guest, Honorable Member of the National Parliament Council of State, Switzerland, Mr. Robert Karmar, to address the gathering.
Okay, hello. I hope there is a translation from French to English. Yeah. Thank you. So, merci. Ah, c'est toi qui fais la translation. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Messieurs les membres des parlements européens et canadiens, Mesdames et Messieurs les experts, Mesdames et Messieurs, chers amis. Tout d'abord, merci. Merci aux organisateurs d'avoir choisi Genève pour cet important forum. Important forum par le thème qui porte sur les rapports entre les nouvelles technologies et les droits de l'homme.
So, if may I, Robert, may I just translate? So I am not an expert in translation. Anyway, Mr. Robert Kramer would like, first of all, to welcome Mr. Lobsang Sangay, all the experts, the Tibetan communities, the representatives of NGOs, and all the friends of Tibet in the room. So we would like, first of all, to thank you, all the organizers, for having chosen Geneva for this forum.
Et je remercie particulièrement les organisateurs de ce forum pour le thème qui a été choisi, qui est un thème important et qui interroge les rapports entre les nouvelles technologies et les droits de l'homme.
And especially for having chosen this theme, which just is a question to the relation between human rights and technologies.
À travers ce forum, il a été mis en évidence que les nouvelles technologies permettent d'installer un système de surveillance extrêmement performant de la société.
This forum underlines in particular that this new system is a system of surveillance which is performing and which is really monitoring the society.
Et l'on passe d'un système qui institue une surveillance pour des raisons de sécurité, ce que l'on peut encore comprendre, en passant à un système qui surveille la conformité sociale des comportements, pour en arriver à un système qui surveille l'allégeance au régime.
So we are coming from a system of security, which is quite normal, to a kind of system which is monitoring the conformity, the social conformity, and to finally to lead to the loyalty or allegiance to a regime.
L'allégeance au régime, cela signifie surveiller les convictions personnelles des citoyennes et des citoyens. Cela signifie de surveiller leurs croyances les plus intimes, auxquelles participent bien sûr leurs convictions religieuses.
So it means the monitoring and surveillance of the conviction of the people and their, let's say, intimate, personal, very personal beliefs and faith.
Évidemment, nous sommes ici dans l'institution d'un système qui se situe totalement à l'opposé des exigences élémentaires des droits de l'homme, et c'est ce qui est, à très juste titre, est dénoncé dans la déclaration finale de ce forum.
So this situation is just the opposite of the legal constraints and obligations which are in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and in the final declaration of this forum.
Permettez-moi, au-delà de cette déclaration finale, de poser la question de ce que signifie ce forum, non seulement par rapport à la situation que l'on peut trouver en Chine, mais également par rapport à la situation de nos pays occidentalisés, de la Suisse par exemple.
So allow me just to question what is the meaning of this kind of forum, not only for China and people living in China, but also for other countries, Western countries, and Switzerland in particular.
Et je vois dans ce forum à la fois une critique et un avertissement.
So this forum is both a critique or criticism and a warning.
La critique tient en ce que, pour le citoyen de nos pays, les nouvelles technologies sont une source d'avantages, sont une source de commodité, sont une source de plaisir.
So criticism, because new technologies are synonyms for citizens of advantages, of commodities and of pleasure.
Facebook nous permet de communiquer avec les autres, de partager nos opinions, nos émotions et finalement de flatter notre personnalité, de flatter notre ego.
Facebook is able to make us share opinions, to flatter each other, and to flatter one's ego.
De la même façon, faire des achats en ligne est une source de commodité. Google nous permet d'accéder aisément à toute une série d'informations.
And similarly, to be able to buy online and to use Google, just participate in this process.
Toutes ces technologies ont la caractéristique d'être gratuites. À vrai dire qu'elles sont gratuites, c'est oublier les conséquences de ces nouvelles technologies. L'information gratuite, cela signifie la disparition des journaux. Les achats en ligne gratuits, ça signifie la disparition de toute une série de commerces et de distributions de proximité. En d'autres termes, cette gratuité a un coût social indiscutable.
All this online information is free, so it means concretely the disappearances of newspaper, of other sources of information, but it is as well a kind of social cost.
Et finalement, rien n'est gratuit. Lorsqu'un produit est gratuit, et on le répète souvent, à juste titre, ça veut dire que c'est vous le produit, c'est vos informations, c'est ce que vous mettez en ligne qui finalement devient ce produit. La valeur marchande, c'est vous-même et ce n'est plus le produit.
So nothing is free of charge, and you are the product, and you are the person is the product. And the information you are provided are online and becoming the product. So you are becoming the product.
Et nous acceptons cette situation consistant à nous vendre, à vendre notre intimité, non pas parce que nous sommes dans un système totalitaire où on s'empare de ces renseignements, mais nous acceptons cette situation par paresse, par souci de flatter notre ego, par manque de sens de la solidarité.
And finally, we are going to accept this kind of situation just because we are lazy, because it flatters our ego, and also because of a lack of solidarity.
Et il n'est pas nécessaire qu'un gouvernement récolte ces données, nous les donnons nous-mêmes volontiers.
So it's not necessary that the government collects this information. We are spontaneously giving this to the government to collect this information or to the system.
Mais le colloque auquel vous avez participé montre ce que l'on peut faire de ces données et en même temps qu'il résonne comme une forme de critique de notre paresse, comme une forme de critique de notre désir d'apparence, il résonne aussi comme un avertissement.
So this colloquium shows like a criticism of what we can do with this, but it's also a kind of warning.
L'avertissement tient en ceci, c'est que aujourd'hui, les récoltes de données que l'on fait dans les pays occidentaux sont faits à titre commercial. Et je qualifierais cela de soft power.
And the warning means that the collecting of information, of data in our Western countries are done on a, let's say, a merchandising basis.
Ce que l'on fait aujourd'hui pour des raisons d'ordre commercial, demain peut évoluer différemment. C'est ce que montre votre forum et je dois dire que je suis particulièrement frappé et aussi particulièrement heureux que dans les conclusions de ce forum, il en ait une qui soit une invite aux pays de l'Union européenne pour leur demander d'être attentifs à la façon dont on récolte les données.
So I am particularly pleased to read through the final declaration that it's also an invitation to the European countries to make them aware of the way the data are collected.
Il y a réellement une nécessité d'avoir un contrôle sur la récolte et sur l'usage des données personnelles. Cela fait intégralement partie des conclusions de ce forum et c'est une conclusion à laquelle nous devons être attentifs.
So there is a necessity to control the way the data are used and of this personal data, and that's particularly important.
Merci donc d'avoir organisé ce forum, merci d'avoir choisi Genève et merci pour les travaux fructueux que vous avez conduits.
So thank you very much for this forum, for having chosen Geneva, and for the fruitful work you have accomplished here.
Thank you so much. May I now call upon President of the Central Tibetan Administration, Honorable Sikyong Dr. Lobsang to deliver his closing remarks.
I'm sorry you have to bear with me one more time. Yesterday when we started the event, the inaugural event was quite boring. Then the 2 days unfolded. It became more exciting, more informative, more substantive, and also very moving with Pinzo Nyudula's testimony. And I think we all are very well informed as to what's happening and what China is not only doing, what it is capable of. So I'm very glad that all the participants came, contributed, and in 2 days we are better informed and better prepared on how to deal with the Chinese government strategy and its approaches towards the world. Yesterday I was a little thrown back, actually. I didn't know that there was an auditorium next door. As I was speaking, a lot of people were laughing at the back door. I thought people in the audience were laughing, you know. So I was thrown off yesterday. Thank goodness the other auditorium is empty now. But let me conclude by saying, you know, what happens to Tibet happens to you. We've been saying this for the last 60 years. The occupation of Tibet has happened, and what's happening in Tibet could happen to you. And for 60 years, you know, the rest of the world told us, yes, what's happening in Tibet is tragic, it's sad, but you are an exception. But we can go on doing business with China, having diplomatic relationship with China. We can deal with China. Yours is a sad story. But 60 years later, now the world is coming to a conclusion that instead of world transforming or changing China, China is changing you. And we said this 60 years ago. Number one, Belt and Road Initiative. We have been the first victim of Belt and Road Initiative. When China promised us a road connecting Tibet with China, Tibetans were very happy because they were paid silver coins. Now, who would not be happy to get paid in silver coins to build a road for your village and for your towns? As soon when the road was completed, we found out the tanks, trucks, and the guns came through that road and occupied us. One road has become 100 roads now, all leading to our natural resources, our minerals, our water, our forest. One airport has become 30 airports, again connecting to our mineral resources. Railway line, one is becoming 3, and one is in fact taking a very awkward circle to connect to the gas, natural gas that we have. And we said this for 60 years, this is what happened to us. But still many countries keep signing Belt and Road Initiative. And then another example is when I think Marriott Hotel, a staff posted a pro-Tibet quote. A Chinese government complained. President Marriott Hotel went to Beijing to say sorry, and I think the staff was fired. And we said, this is happening to us. We better take note. No one listened. Next, Mercedes-Benz. A staff put a quote of His Holiness Dalai Lama about compassion and peace. Chinese government complained. Mercedes president went to Beijing and said sorry, took out the quote. Now recently, NBA, the Basketball Association of America, a manager tweeted about Hong Kong. And then the owner had to say sorry. They had to delete the quote. And it became a big issue in America. Now then, what is this? What is happening here in America? Even NBA, the most richest organization, is kowtowing or bending backwards towards the Chinese government. And we said, we told you when it happened with Marriott Hotel. We told you when it happened in Mercedes-Benz. We told you when it happened in Delta Airlines. No one listened. Now it's happening to whole of America and whole of Europe. But then some people still think, when I travel to Europe or Australia, they say, oh, we are so big, we can deal with China, it's so far away. Now I've been to many countries, I can give you many examples. One time, I was visiting Australia, and the media discussion was whether the Australian Foreign Minister, Bob Carr, will meet with me or not. Obviously, he will not meet with me. But karma has its way. So we drove to the basement of the parliament. We took the elevator up. When the elevator door opened, who walked in? Foreign Minister of Australia, Bob Carr. So it was a karmic meeting, not formal meeting. Next year, when I went back to Australia, I found out that the Australian Foreign Minister, Bob Carr, has become a major consultant for the Chinese government. He runs the biggest think tank on China. A former trade minister who negotiated a trade deal with the Chinese government, which became controversial, he had to leave. Now that trade minister works for a Chinese company for $880,000 a year. Now we are not talking about business people, we are talking about ministers providing service. Now you can say Australia may be an exception because Australia is coal, Australia is iron, Australia is steel. You have to sell to a consumer and China happens to be a consumer. So they need money. So, you know, it's a quid pro quo, you get money, you compromise few things, it's okay. And in the center of Europe, you have Norway, perhaps the richest country. At any given year, they have 5 to 10% budget surplus. They have around $1 trillion sovereign fund. I think the second generation or the next generation of Norwegians are taken care of. So Norwegians don't need money from China. And the discussion in Norway was whether to normalize relationship with China or not, because Norwegian Peace Committee or Nobel Peace Committee gave the Nobel Peace Prize to Liu Xiaobo, because of which he got extended sentence, right? I think 5 or 7 years added after that. He was in prison. Now the discussion in Norway was, now should we normalize relationship with China or not? And the foreign minister who advocated, we have to normalize relationship with China. Now Norway doesn't need money. And the discussion about trade was how much of, Norwegian fish could be sold to China. But then there is no need for any money from China. Finally, and sadly, Liu Xiaobo was dying of cancer and he needed medical treatment. German doctors were willing to provide medical service. Nobel laureate leaders around the world wrote an open letter, petition to the Chinese leaders to release Liu Xiaobo, give him a medical treatment, he is dying. And one leader was absent from that petition, Prime Minister of Norway. And then Norway normalized its relationship with China. And after that, what happened was the visit of His Holiness Dalai Lama did not happen. Mention about Hong Kong, Uyghurs, Mongolian, Tiananmen Square, Taiwan did not happen. Now, where is the Foreign Minister of Norway? He is the President of World Economic Forum. So when we say, what happened to Tibet? I used to say, could happen to you. It's already happening to you. So Tibet issue is no more about 6 million Tibetans. It's about you. It's about Europe. It's about the rest of the world. Whole world thought, based on Nixon-Kissinger theory, that we will have diplomatic relationship with China, we will have business relationship with China, China will become rich, and there will be a middle class, and China will transform into a full-fledged democracy. So the whole plan was to transform China. Now you can clearly see China is transforming the rest of the world, from the richest country like Norway to Australia to many European countries. And it all started with Tibet. We've been warning the rest of the world. It happened to us, it's happening to you. Our country was occupied, not just with one road, but also with elite cooptation. By the time we found out that some of our elite, the ministers, were already bought or paid by the Chinese government. Now in modern context, Chinese government makes former presidents, the prime ministers, the ministers, consultants. So 60 years ago, we lost our country. And we don't want to see the rest of the world lose their freedom, lose their democracy, lose their human rights. So it's already happening. So hence, we all must be vigilant, prepared, and clearly China has a policy. Let me end with this. They are already implementing in Tibet. It's called 0 and 100 policy, which is to say, Chinese government will allow 0 information from the outside world to come to Tibet. But they will spread 100% of the propaganda about Tibet to the rest of the world. You might think it's impossible in the day and age of internet and technology. They are using firewall. They have replaced Great Wall with firewall to prevent any information from coming inside Tibet. But they are spreading 100% of the propaganda to the rest of the world, because you open New York Times, Washington Post, you open any major newspapers or televisions. They buy pages after pages after pages, what they call editorial about Tibet. Their propaganda. At one time, a managing editor of a major Indian newspaper came to my office and said, look, Chinese embassy bought 4 pages from our newspaper and published about Tibet. I said, why don't you buy 2 pages to counter that? And I said, how much does it cost? They said, 5 million rupees for 1 page. Huh? And I said, that would help us send 50 students to university or more. I said, I can't afford that. So this is not an Indian newspaper. They're buying New York Times, major editorials. So they're making sure there's 100% information or propaganda about Tibet in foreign media. And we can't do much about it. So hence, why we organize Geneva Forum last year, this year, and we want to do it next year too, given the success and the participation, because through this forum, we want to tell the rest of the world it's no more about Tibet. It is about Tibet, but more important, it's about you. So we all are in the same boat. We all must strategize together to counter these efforts, this strategy, to transform China more like us. So that's the goal. And hence, today, I think we all were informed, and I'm sure you will go to your homes and places and your organizations and inform your colleagues. And next year, too, there will be Geneva Forum. Then you will bring 10, if possible, 100 of your friends, and then we will have to rent a bigger room, perhaps other room too, so we'll have a bigger place. And then we will continue the discussion. So more people are informed, then more prepared we will be. Hence, I want to thank, yesterday I thanked all the participants, speakers. Today I want to thank especially those who are coming from major organizations here in Geneva and from various places in Europe. This year, the participation from Swiss government, and we have also a participation or representative from the State Department. He flew all the way from Washington, D.C. to come to this forum. So the Geneva Forum is reaching far and wide. So next year we will make it more successful so that we send a message to Beijing. Yes, you can try all you want, but there will be a catalyst, a small group who will speak the truth, who will expose the truth, so that the world will be better prepared in dealing with China. So hopefully, we will see you next year. Till then, we wish you good health, good luck, and safe journey. With that, I want to say, Tujishe, Tashidelek. Thank you.
Thank you, Kong Sikyong, for those wonderful words of encouragement and also declaring that we will hold this Geneva Forum next year, and the message, the information, the fight, united fight will go on. Thank you so much. Of Department of Information and International Relations, Kong Kamachunila, to deliver the vote of thanks, please.
The Geneva Forum on China's high-tech repression and freedom of religion, a two-day event, would be incomplete without acknowledging all sources of strength who have made tremendous contribution in making the forum not just possible, also, I believe, a resounding success. Honorable Robert Kramer, Member of the National Parliament, Council of State, Switzerland, as well as Co-President of Swiss Parliamentary Group for Tibet, Honorable Sikyong Dr. Lobsang Sangay, the President of the Central Tibetan Administration, Honorable Mr. Garnet Janus, Member of Canadian Parliament, Honorable Mr. Nicholas Pexa, Honorable Member of European Parliament, distinguished panelists, moderators, members in the audience, it is a great pleasure and honor for me in proposing vote of thanks in the closing session of Geneva Forum 2019. In fact, I have just taken over as the Secretary for International Relations of the Department of Information and International Relations, CTA. On behalf of the Geneva Forum organizing team, Department of Information and International Relations and the Tibet Bureau, Geneva, Central Tibetan Administration, I would like to thank Mr. Robert Kramer for accepting our proposal to be the special guest for the closing session and for his very thoughtful speech. Taking this opportunity, I would also like to thank Mr. Robert for all his unwavering dedication and commitment in supporting the just cause of Tibet, being with Tibetans, standing for freedom, truth, justice, and human rights through thick and thin. I must also humbly express my gratitude to His Holiness the Dalai Lama for the valuable message for the Geneva Forum 2019. I would also like to thank Sikyong Dr. Lobsang Sangay, who came all the way from Dharamsala to be with us at the forum, and also for his awe-inspiring speeches both at the opening and closing session. I must also not miss to thank Mr. Carlos Somaruga, who had accepted our invitation as the special guest at the opening session and for his wonderful speech. Under the umbrella of central theme on China's high-tech repression and freedom of religion, we had the opportunity to delve and discuss various sub-themes in 4 different panels in these 2 days. The panel discussions were highly informative, illuminating, and well-researched, and more importantly, I believe through these discussions, we have made satisfactory headway in exposing the new age repressive methods using modern high-end technologies by the Chinese authorities to further repress Tibetan, Uyghurs, Southern Mongolians, and other religious and ethnic minorities, for the wider world to see and take necessary actions and immediate action to counter them. I therefore must thank the distinguished panelists for the first panel discussion on technology and future of human rights, Mr. Kelsang Gyaltsen, Mr. Edward Chen, Ms. Hilary Miller, and Mr. Philippe Giroge. And eminent panelists for the second panel, high-tech repression of people of faith in China, Mr. Pujung Siring, Ms. Annie Yang, Mr. Dolkun Issa, and Mr. Marco Respenti. Eminent panelists for the third panel, Beijing export of surveillance technology, Mr. Tenzin Dala, Dr. Chen Yuan Tang, and retired Colonel Vinayak Bhatt. And the eminent panelists for the final panel session, Combating Fears of a China-led Orwellian World, Mr. Nicholas Paxter, Ms. Sarah Brooks, Mr. Garnet Genus, and Mr. Tashi Punjok for sharing their expertise and engaging in fruitful exchanges during their respective panel discussion. I must also thank the moderators, Mr. Sonam Frasi, Ms. Tinli Chuji, and Mr. Kelsang Gyaltsen for their outstanding role in moderating the panel discussions. I would also like to thank Pinzo Nyidun, longest-serving former political prisoner, for sharing her accounts of ordeal she had to undergo in Chinese prison. I salute her and her compatriots, many of whom still languish helplessly in Chinese prison, and I must also thank Ms. Kalden Tsomo for very efficiently interpreting for Ms. Nyidun. A big round of applause to all our participants, representatives from the permanent missions, UN human rights officers, representatives from civil societies, human rights group, Tibet support groups, and community members, and of course our friend from the United States and Tibetan community members for attending this two-day event. I would also like to thank my colleagues from the Tibet Museum for the photo exhibition at Place de la Nation on Tibet's history and current situation under the theme Long Look Homewards, and also my colleagues from Tibet TV for covering this event. Last but not the least, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Chime Rigzin, representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama for Central and Eastern Europe, based in Geneva, and his colleagues and others involved for hosting this event, for very efficiently handling every logistic details and making this forum possible. I once again thank you all for your presence and contribution. Long live His Holiness the Dalai Lama, long live humanity, and long live Tibetan freedom movement. Thank you all.
And before we wrap up the closing ceremony, may I please request Honorable Sikyong Dr. Lobsang Sangay to hand over a memento to Mr. Robert Kramer. So he will hand over. Sorry. Thank you all. See you next year.
Thank you.